Some unique medians are being installed in one East Texas city in hopes of cutting down on pedestrian crashes. It's happening in Longview. And as KLTV7's Bob Hallmark reports, 4 areas have been designated by TxDOT for the new medians.
They're called mid-block crossings, designed to give pedestrians a refuge island when crossing a wide roadway.
It's a mid-block crossing. It is similar to different kinds of medians.
But there is a reason why the mini medians are here. A traffic study showed that there are some problems in these intersections.
As people sometimes cross roadways where there are no crossing lights, these are areas where there have been crashes involving pedestrians.
We look at those numbers, we take them very seriously. There have been some accidents involving pedestrians or high potential of involving pedestrians on some of those roadways.
But the owner of a Gilmer Road business is curious about their placement.
I think they should put like a red stop light that's flashing or something like that to make people see it from far away so they don't run it over. But I have seen accidents before that.
Already one motorist has run over the crossing.
Probably creating problems.
Okay.
But it could go both ways.
Signage in advance of the crossing warns motorists to stop for pedestrians. There are 4, one on Gilmer Road, 2 on Highway 80 near Alpine Road intersection, and 1 on Estes Parkway just north of I-20. Locations chosen because there have been pedestrian crashes in the area.
Safety is our top priority, is to bring awareness to pedestrians. We always say 1 death is too many, 1 fatality is too many.
Bob Hallmark, KLTV 7 News.
And those Longview projects are expected to be complete by late this month or maybe sometime early next month. TxDOT has about 12 of these pedestrian improvement projects scheduled throughout the 8 counties in their Tyler district.